I think Notre Dame has done a really good job, and until this outbreak, I think they had probably done better than anyone in the country. And talking to Brian Kelly a couple weeks ago, I mean, I don't think they could have done anything else. The issue, though, is that we still don't have the answer. Did this transmission happen during a football game? Because the next week, both teams postpone. But I do think it's a problem for a lot of reasons. It's, we've had 23 or 4 postponements already or cancellations, but this is Notre Dame. And not only that, they have a bunch of big games coming up against Florida State. They play Clemson in about 6 weeks, which will possibly be the biggest game of the year in college football. So I think all our eyes are on how Notre Dame is handling it. But so far, Molly, I have no complaints with what they've done.
I don't mean to be facetious in any way with this question, Paul, but is there such a thing as a big college football game right now with all of this stuff going on? There's so many question marks. I mean, it's just been hard for me to really gravitate towards it because so much stuff is going on around college football. 1 minute we don't know which conference is playing. 1 minute we don't know what games are going to take place, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just wondering about that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I understand it, Stephen A. And I think until last weekend when the SEC joined the party, it felt hollow. And this is not just because I swim in the SEC waters every day, but when Mississippi State upset LSU, it sent shockwaves across college football, which I think was good. The sport needed it, but it also needs the Big Ten to start playing again in 3 weeks to make it feel a little more complete, and then the Pac-12 a week after. But it was a sleepy lead up, and I know college football fans love it, but it's been different. But we've seen some interesting games, and I'm not saying it's normal. It's not. It seems a little more abnormal than the NFL. But I do think it will get better as more teams join the party.
It's great that Notre Dame is going to have those antigen tests. The question is, why didn't they already? And while we're at it, Coach Mackey and I, Stephen A., are looking for antigen tests so my daughter and her friends can go back to playing basketball. I mean, like, if you have access to antigen tests, great. You should use them. Why hadn't they already been doing it? Paul, I want to get to on the field. Alabama, Texas A&M, talk to me.
Well, I think this is Alabama's game. I think Alabama looked really good the other day, and it's because of a lot of reasons. Mac Jones is a very good quarterback in replacing Tua. They have wide receivers that will be all over the NFL next year. As you guys know, Najee Harris to me is a Heisman candidate, and their defense is a lot better with Dylan Moses, who, remember the All-American linebacker who missed the entire season last year. So I don't think this game is going to be particularly close. Alabama has Georgia in a couple weeks, which I think will start to separate. But Georgia has Auburn this week, so you're going to start seeing some separation already. But it's hard to get over some of the surprises that we've already seen, Max. But don't worry about Alabama. They're going to be around, I think, all season long.
Let me go back off the field, Paul, and asking you this question. Obviously, Dabo Sweeney, when the whole social justice issues came about in the aftermath of George Floyd's killing and what have you, Dabo Sweeney made some news and people were on him a lot, very, very critical of him. Just the other day, he talked about being weary of the politicization of certain things as it pertained to being asked questions regarding Black Lives Matter. What are your thoughts about Dabo Sweeney and what he's had to deal with this whole social justice issues that have gone on over the last few months, and how do you feel he's handled things, and how is the college football world receiving him in that regard?
Well, I think he handled the beginning of it in an awkward manner, Stephen A. I think that's an absolute fact. I believe he got better, and I think Dabo Sweeney sometimes talks too much for his own good. And you guys know him very well. I think he means well. He just doesn't always sound right. And I think that's another uncomfortable statement to listen to. But I will still give him high marks. His players believe in what he's saying. And I don't think anyone in college football is resentful. I mean, I know there's some raised eyebrows, but I think his intent is good, and I think he has backed that up. But I think in terms of college football, the majority of the coaches, especially Nick Saban, and many others, have stood up and have been heard very loudly, Stephen A.
Paul, as you know, we have a lot of LSU Tigers here at ESPN. We're lousy with them. They're everywhere, and they're very cocky
I don't
nowadays.
understand that,
and
by
yet,
the way.
no Joe Burrow. No Joe Burrow. What's the outlook?
Not good. And Stephen A., I know you promised a year ago that Alabama would win this year, not LSU, and you're right. Not that anyone should have ever doubted you. I'm not suggesting LSU was a one-hit wonder. I think they have a very good program, but replacing 14 starters, losing Jamar Chase, their best wide receiver, having Derek Stingley out of the game, one of the better cornerbacks, they just didn't have it. And I think they'll lose a couple more games this year. They will not be a contender when this season ends.
So with that being said, I'm looking at Alabama. Let's go back to that because obviously you've been very praiseworthy of Nick Saban and how he's handled a lot of different things. This program seems ready. Obviously, if you ask most people, they'd mention Alabama and Clemson. I'm shocked that Ohio State hasn't been mentioned more. Could you explain why that's the situation? I don't hear a lot of noise about Ohio State, even though Justin Fields is there. For obvious reasons, they're not playing yet. I get all of that. But still in all, what are your thoughts about that? We've been talking about Alabama, Clemson. We haven't been talking about other teams that we need to be watching out for. Why is that?
Stephen A., I think the only reason is what you mentioned. They're not playing yet. If you ask 10 college football experts, who are the three best teams in the country? I think you're going to get the same three from just about every one of them, and it's Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State. Justin Fields is a legitimate Heisman candidate, but until we see him on October 24th, it really is somewhat futile to talk about him. But I think they'll be contenders, and I don't think there really is any doubt about that. It now is who is the fourth team. Many had Oklahoma in there. They lost last weekend. So I don't think they have any recourse.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.